Hi, everybody. Today I am interviewing and talking with Sorae, who is a step artist who is pretty rare in step artistry. Steps for the three major, I guess, pillars of ITG being mod, stamina, and tech. Welcome.
Yeah. Hey, what's up? Glad to be here. Glad to talk step charting, mods, all that shit.
Hell yeah. I'm fucking excited too. So, it is the beginning of the interview, so we must start. How did you get into dance games?
Oh, okay. This is fun. Do you want to start at the very, very beginning,
Oh
or do you
yeah.
want to start from the? Oh yeah. So,
Oh yeah.
fucking club. Remember Club Penguin, the fucking DDR minigame? Yeah, that's my first exposure to rhythm games, and then I got into like Osu and shit like that. And then I think me playing Osu enough led me to Kai Dash's one of Kai Dash, who is a modder in the not IGG community.
Hmm.
It led me to one of their videos. It was a line out of mod file to Insane Techniques by Puro, and I watched that. I'm like, dude, holy shit, this is so cool, and that led me down the rabbit hole.
Hmm.
But I didn't really get into the game until like 3 or 4 years later when I joined the UKSRT Discord, and that was kind of officially the point when I got into dance games.
How many years ago
And
was
yeah,
that ish?
I think that was I joined the Discord in like 2018, I think,
Okay,
and
so
then
like
I found the videos in like 2015 or 2016.
okay, so you lurked a
Yeah,
little bit and then you joined
yeah,
the Discord.
yeah. Not even lurk,
Awesome,
just like I didn't even like comment on any of the videos. Just like, wow, this is so cool. I want to make one of these one day.
awesome. So then that leads perfectly into the next question. What made you
Yeah.
decide to make your own mod file?
Oh God. So yeah, part of it was like inspiration from like watching UKSRT, like Tar Nukes shit, the other tournaments, When Do You Hate You series, and I'm like, oh, I want to make one of these. Have some ideas for a character. Then I need to like make at least like one file to like try to get something out and get a feel for it. And the UKSRT Discord is really fucking helpful with trying to get new people to mod because I had no programming experience prior to starting, and I'm majoring in computer science now. So
Okay.
that not as easy to
Uh,
kind of get me into like writing code.
How does like the feedback loop work over there? Because I haven't really interacted with the mods community too much. Like how do you collaborate on files?
Oh, so for like the feedback loop is
Hmm.
like you find a song and you have some ideas in your head. So then you set all the shit up to like make a file. Like you make the chart, you put the template together with the chart, and then you write the mods. Probably send some like threatening screenshots, some videos to some friends. Ask, hey, is this readable? Is this too reaction time? Like, is there not enough reaction time here? Ask some for some feedback and fix stuff, and then put it out. That's generally the cycle for mods. For collaborating is kind of different, yeah, because there's a couple different ways you can do it. Like, one way is you can have one person does this section, the other person does this section, and then at the end you like tie everything together. It's a combination of both, and usually people will use like GitHub for that, or they'll just DM the file back and forth between each other, which I think is a bit inefficient. Uh, but there's not really any like code conflicts, anyways, because people like put stuff in their separate like code files,
Okay.
and yeah, yeah, and it's just usually bouncing ideas off of each other and like trying to get like one cohesive theme is pretty important too.
So you mentioned theming, and I feel like with mods chart theming is way more like concrete than
Yeah.
like tech or FA. So for the people on like the tech FA side of like the island or isle,
Yeah.
not island,
Yeah.
um, how would you? I mean, how would you describe mod theming?
For mods theming, a big part of it is aesthetics. Another big part of it is difficulty balance, and I think the last part is just the overall feel of the mods. Like, especially like sometimes people have like different styles of mods. Like, one person might have these like big swooshy like bouncy motions, and the other person might like just do some weird stuff with like the playfield being static. And having those two styles be in the same file might be a bit too weird. So, it's yeah, so the aesthetics is the big part because that's what people like focus on the most. That's like the background of the file. Again, it's like the motions of shit. How like the gimmicks of the like mesh together. Difficulty balance is simple enough. It's just like you don't want this person's part to be like super fucking easy, and then this other person's part to be like impossible in the same song.
Okay. So how do you even balance like difficulty in a song?
For mods, difficulty is like super fucking subjective. It's not like
Yeah.
stamina. Stamina is like easy to rate because you have like lots of files to compare against, and they're all like kind of the same ish because they're all stream. You can compare measures, BPM, whatever. It's objective, is what I'm trying to say. It You have concrete measurements. Kind of same with tech, but not as much. But with mods, it's kind of all out the window. It's difficulty super subjective. People have different different skill sets, and they can read certain mods well, but not others. So you just have to either go around, ask other people, like how do you feel? What difficulty do you feel like this is? And it's on a 1 to 20 scale. So generally, what people do is they'll also compare like this file to this file that has like similar like style of modding. That's how people say like, oh, this is a bit harder. I'd say it's this difficult. I think recently there was an instance in a thing that the UKSRT server is working on called Mod Jam Camp, where it's like the playtesters for that are super divided for some mod files. Like one of the playtesters fucking said this is a 999.
That's not even
And then
on
the
the
other
scale.
dude, it's not even. It's like the equivalent of one in stamina.
Gotcha,
I don't
gotcha.
know. Yeah. And then the other people are like, oh no, this is like a 12.
Okay, so then is
Yeah.
is the when you talk about the difficulty, is it just based on like how hard it is to read and complete, or like does the steps itself?
Oh no, steps absolutely do affect difficulty. But when the steps are like super easy, not as much. But when you like start getting harder steps, like look at a file like Brother Mojo's error code pressure, that definitely affects difficulty because that's like a ITG Tech 12, probably like high 12, low 13, and that definitely affects how hard it is to read the mods because you have less reaction time because there you have to think more to like hit these super dense steps. There's like bursts, foot switches, all that shit. If you like put like a chart that was like an ITG 9 in the same mods, it would be way easier to read. Another good example is Daiki's Forbidden file, which I think most people in the community have agreed is the hardest file. The steps are like mid high 13, and that definitely makes like reading the file a lot harder. Again, because the density is just so high. If you replace the steps with like something easier, it just not as hard of a file anymore.
So in Stamina, there isn't a hardest
Yeah,
song.
yeah,
People just kind of add measures as time goes on. Like there's definitely songs that people have made that are like a 500 BPM 16th dump that no one can actually pass, right? That are the
yeah,
hardest or whatever.
yeah,
But like ideally in Stamina, you just add either like length or speed, and then things just get incrementally harder. Um,
yeah.
it seems to
Yep.
me like in mods, and tell me if I'm wrong here, that it kind of would get to the point where you either have to like memorize the chart or you get to a reaction time that people just don't have.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
when people are trying to make hard mods content, like how do they know like the line between this is impossible versus uh, it is possible, just really fucking hard?
Yeah. So you are right about like there's a threshold where like you either have to memorize the chart or it's just way too low reaction time. I guess the main way people deal with that is a lot of playtesting. One is a lot of playtesting, 2 is a lot of experience making hard mod files. Like if you ask like fucking Taro Nuke, he's made a lot of hard mod files. He knows like generally what's fair and what's not, and what not to like put in a mod file to make it like way too out of line. So yeah, definitely experience plays a huge part in figuring out that balance between is this fun, is this too hard.
Okay. But let's also talk about something I think that's interesting about you in particular is that you also are active in the communities of tech and stamina, which there's actually not that many people who do tech and stamina alone, but like the fact that you have all three is pretty interesting. Why did you decide to branch out into tech and stamina?
So for tech specifically was because a lot of sight reading tournament events coincide with Rumble in the Prairie up in UIUC, and that runs a tech event. Those tournament packs get posted in UKSRT, and I downloaded them, and I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. I might want to try writing something like this too. And my first tech charts were like absolute fucking doo doo, but we don't talk about that.
Eh.
Stamina though was I guess just me discovering ECS. I think that got posted over to UKSRT as well at some point, and I played through. I'm like, this is fun. I played through ITG Alex's Stamina Safari. That was one of the other first Stamina packs I played on. I don't have a pad, so I played these on like keyboard index,
Okay.
and I'm like, okay, let's. This also seems pretty fun to try. Just to try, and I released my first Stamina pack, which is I think 5 files, so it's like a really tiny mini pack.
Hmm.
And Nav just so happened to give me feedback because they were active in UKSRT at the time. I mean, not necessarily active, just like lurking, I guess, but I think they saw me post that and they gave me some pretty valuable feedback.
Hmm.
And that was what like encouraged me to pursue writing more Stamina.
Okay. As a person who's like kind of active in all of the communities, can you compare and contrast, I guess, in your opinion, like how the communities are, like maybe strengths of one, weaknesses of others?
So I mostly lurk in Stamina Nation. I don't talk much in there. Just mostly browse sim files, upcoming events, shit like that. See, but I would say definitely the tech and Stamina communities are more mature. They're the like age average is a higher, I would say. Like the mods community tends to attract like younger people, mostly because like that's just how the content is. It appeals to a younger audience with like the stories and characters and shit like that.
Hmm.
Stamina and Techers, uh, general older audience because those communities have been around longer. The people playing those like subsets of ITG have just been around since the early days. Whereas like mods is a lot newer, I guess. From personal experience, it feels like to me, mods is a lot more like inclusive of newer step artists and modders.
Hmm.
I guess like tech and stamina, you kind of have to work a lot more to get your name out there. But mods is like you're guaranteed at least like one person is gonna play your file and post a score in the score channel or something. Whereas like stamina, usually you need to like or tech, you need to post like a pack or get into an event, and that's when like you get the exposure that you need.
Okay. Do you have a different approach to making step files when it is like a mods file versus a tech file versus a stamina file?
Uh, I wouldn't think so. Usually my approach is just like, does this song sound like I could step X type of file to it? And I like, and if it is, like I think of like how I would step it. Like, oh, this part sounds like foot switches. This part sounds like I could do some like this kind of mod. This part sounds like I could do. I could like write a stream here. So it's. I wouldn't say it's that much different. Although for mods, I do have to take a lot longer just because of like how much work I put into like one mod file.
Who do you think is the good, and in all actually all the communities, who do you think your favorite step artists are?
Oh, okay, I could talk about this all fucking day for mods. For mods, fucking the big ones, Taro obviously, their UKSRT stuff with Nil, aka Cosmic Layer. Their shit's like really fun to watch whenever it happens. Halcyonics does a lot of cool motion design stuff. I take a lot of inspiration from them. Terry in the mods community is another cool motion design person. I like their file aesthetics a lot. Kpuma is another good modder that I really look up to. Like, again, they're like mod design, motion design, like graphics design. It's fucking top notch. What do I want to say? This is like absolutely not a inclusive. This is not like an exhaustive list, by the way, because there's a lot of people who like post mods like, oh, holy shit, this is so good. But
Yeah, yeah.
also,
Definitely a disclaimer. Just because you're not on this list doesn't
yeah,
mean you're bad.
yes,
The what you call it, I definitely had I think in Rems's interview I asked like, oh, who do you think like the new good up and coming like stamina step artists, and he listed some people, and some people were kind of like upset that they weren't mentioned.
oh god,
And then Rems was like, oh, I just forgot to mention them. They have good stuff. So
yeah.
not
Another
this is not everybody.
Another person I want to shout out was Saring. We worked on a sight reading tournament together, and they're like, they've recently like stepped the fuck up with their graphics and shit, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, again, this is not exhaustive, but I probably want to move on to like stamina and tech now. For both stamina and tech, ITG Alex is probably like one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to that. Uh, I want to say in tech, Chief Skittle stuff I really enjoyed. I really like for Alligator stuff. His stuff in Technical Showcase 4 was really fucking fun. Uh, Demo, Demo for running Democracy, that helped me a lot for getting better at writing tech, and also his step charts are pretty fucking cool. Uh, what
I
else?
don't think I played a demo subchart. Mostly because I
have
haven't.
have you seen Matt Silver?
I've seen
Like,
Matt Silver. I really want to try
yeah,
Matt Silver. That looks like a lot of fun.
yeah,
The
it's
brackety,
insane.
yeah, the brackety foot switchy side switchy thing. That looks like a lot of
So,
fun to try.
more recently, I would say someone like Zaya doing their like tech stuff is they've like consistently done well in Democracy, and their step charts are always like trying to push the limits of tech for other stamina stuff. I like a lot of people's stuff in stamina. It's just in general. But the other people who stand out, Rems is pretty fucking good. Uh, Yutzi, just for putting out the sheer amount of content that he does. How the fuck do you have this much motivation to put out like
I don't know.
10 packs in a year?
It's like,
What the
oh
hell?
yeah, I was lurking, and he said like, oh yeah, I'm lowering my output for stamina. Here's like 3 packs. I'm just like,
Yeah. What the fuck? Oh, for mods, I wanted to say two more people that I just thought of. Tatays and Mango After Dawn. Y'all are chill to hang out with, and y'all make cool files. Yeah,
oh, nice.
that's it.
Shout out. Not enough
That's it,
shout
I
outs
guess.
in here. Not enough shout outs in
Not
interviews.
enough shoutouts. Just no, just shoutouts to the communities in general. Holy shit, y'all make so much cool content.
Hell yeah.
It's so fun to see and play.
So then, so the mods and stamina and I keep forgetting tech. I don't know why I keep forgetting tech. But the mod, stamina, and tech communities in general are pretty segmented. There is a little bit of overlap, but I mean on a broader scale they don't interact too much. Um,
Yeah.
in your opinion, having been throughout most of actually all of them, um, why do you think that is?
I will say stamina and tech have been less and less segmented as time goes on. Like people were writing like stam tech stuff because that stuff gone to EC. No, stamina RPG lately with the uh yeah Democratic People's Republic of Timing charts. And that got like some FA players into stamina, and some stamina players are like looking at FA now. And so I would say those two are less segmented nowadays, but I would say those two are segmented because the like style of play is just completely different. Stamina's pushing physical limits. They don't care about score that much. Their charts are much longer, like anywhere from like 3 minutes to 2 hours. Whereas tech is more focused on like weird rhythms, weird tech, bursts, short bursts, and like most of their files are like 1.5 to 2.5 minutes long. Or focus more on timing. They don't. Passing is kind of a given for most people in FA, but those don't really hold a candle to how segmented they are from mods, because mods is just a completely different beast. It's nothing like stamina or tech, although there is some people have written tech in mod files. But to get into mods, you need to download an entirely new build of Stepmania. There's this giant Dropbox of files that you need to download, and the skill sets, like, sure, you can like be good at like tech and have a better transition into mods, but it can only get you so far, because the skill sets that you see in mods are like nothing like those in stamina or tech. Like you play tech and you probably have like a decent amount of stamina to go with it. Like, see Demo trying out stamina RPG, trying out this new stamina chart. He got pretty far because he has a lot of experience in tech already, and that carried him decently far. But him trying out mods for the first time was like he could read up to like, I don't know, under halfway up the mod's difficulty scale. It's kind of nuts because again the skill sets are just so much different.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then, so I noticed that you mentioned that you have to like install your own like not ITG, not
Yeah.
ITG they call it, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to install like
Not
not
ITG.
ITG and stuff like that. Do you think that is the biggest barrier to entry for a tech or stamina person to get into mods?
Mm, yes and no. I would say yes, because it's like, because you can play tech and stamina on Stepmania 5, and that's easy enough. You can play mods on Stepmania 5, but that's, you gotta play like ports, and those aren't always up to date. But uh, yes, because then you have to like set up everything again, set up your keybinds, link your pad, and then make sure that's working. Your download a bunch of new songs that can only run on that version of Setmania. You gotta set up like volume and whatnot. But no, at the same time, because it's just another build of Stepmania, and you can always like play Tech and Stamina on it. It's not on non-ITG. It works completely fine. It's But also yes, because non-ITG can't read like .ssc files, which a lot of tech files use nowadays. So you're kind of just like having like probably two or more builds of Stepmania, and it kind of just not fun to deal with sometimes. But I think the biggest barrier to getting to mods is just learning to read, because you see mods for the first time like, what the fuck is going on? How do I read this? Where do I look? That's
Yes.
the biggest barrier.
That's a great question. How do you figure out where to look in mods?
Uh,
Because I never know where to look.
if you start low, generally, like, you just look at the middle of the screen usually, and that works because the playfield's not like moving much, not changing much. But after a while, yeah, as you go up and up, like the difficulty scale, things get like more abstract. So you kind of have to use intuition from like previous files. Like, oh, this previous file used the same gimmick but a bit easier, and this file's adding a bit more. Uh, knowing the song helps a fair bit. Being able to read the note colors helps the most though. Is And that's a huge skill set, because it's like, sometimes you won't know like when this note's gonna hit the receptor, so you just have to base it off of like note timing and song. If all else fails, just read close to the bottom of the screen. That usually doesn't go wrong.
Okay.
Also, I'm jumping all over the place, but one more thing is, reading ahead is just taking like this chunk of notes and then like putting it into your short-term memory. So when the playfield just starts like going batshit insane, you still have that. You still know like what to hit. Most of it is just like kind of feel and just playing more easy stuff and working your way up is mostly what I can say.
Okay. Do people make those videos like Vincent ITG made videos of like, hey, here's a tech chart. This is how you play the tech chart. Do people do that with mods?
Oh,
Like, here's a mods chart. Here's a big red circle. Put your eyeballs here.
no, no. uh, Mostly because you'd probably have to do it for like literally every single mod file because they're all just so different.
Okay.
But yeah, usually if a mod file is designed well enough, you won't need a video that's like, okay, look here, and then you read the mod, and yeah, it's usually intuitive enough to where you can just read it after a couple plays,
Okay.
and if you're like skilled enough.
Okay. So how do you make it? I guess how would you make a mods file like intuitive? Do you do like certain transitions or?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely transitions, like you said, is a pretty big part because you don't want the playfield doing this and then like literally next frame is just it's doing something completely different. That will completely fuck over people. You want to like try to like ease them into like making their eyes follow a certain place or easing the transitions so that it's not as like jarring or sudden. Uh, Making the steps less dense during a transition or just straight up removing the steps there. And sometimes that can let you do like cooler transitions that might not be possible if steps are there. Another part of it is game design is like uh, game design and scaling is like you take this like particular gimmick and you like introduce the player to it and like, oh, this is how this works, and then you start playing around with it more and more throughout the course of the file. And I think a file that does this really well is Taranuke's Alien from I think it was Modbrush Easymoto, which is one of the last packs to get released. Another file that does this well is Ekran LeBlanc by K Puma. Is like it shows you, okay, there's this play field and then there's the shadow behind the play field. Oh no, the play fields are slowly separating. Oh, now you have to read the shadow on the wall, and that's kind of the gimmick of the file.
Okay.
So that's like considered good game design, is like it eases you into like what it's trying to do. And that's just game design overall, like not even like a mods thing. That's just how you make a game. To build onto the question though, is like another part of like making a mod file intuitive is mod files have a fixed speed mod. So if you pick something, if you go into the like options menu and pick like C600 something, that doesn't matter at all. That gets cleared, and you have to read at the speed that the mod file gives you. And because of that, whoever's making the mod file can set the speed mod for the person to read at, and it needs to be low enough to where they have like ample reaction time to read the upcoming notes. If it's too fast, it's not fun. If it's too slow, then all the notes get like super clumped together and hard to read. So you have to find like something good in between.
Okay. Do y'all have like a magic number that you go for, like to?
No,
No, you just feel it.
no, it depends on file per effect, especially per effect. Yeah.
Okay. That's very interesting. Because I remember back in like I used to play Windows Gigadelic, which is like a very old mod file. And really the only thing that was a mod about it was, I'm not even sure if you count it. It's more of a gimmick file than a mod file. But the BPM, it would like stutter its way up, the arrows. But the problem with that, because it was a sim file, you had to like remember the correct speed mod for it to be readable, because otherwise it would like the next note would be off screen at like most
Oh.
speed mods.
So yeah, that does remind me. Taro's Mawaru series, like the super old ones, they do like say in the banner subtitle like read at this times multiplier speed
Okay.
for like the best experience. Yeah.
So how do you like, from like a visualization, you have like in your mind how you want these arrows to look and fly around the screen and stuff like that. How do you get that into paper or like actual code?
Yeah, actual code. Oh, if you're experienced enough, that's not too hard because you know like I can do this part of the effect with like this function like an actor proxy or whatever. I'm trying to stay away from using technical terms, but
Got you.
yeah, like I can make this part of the effect with this, and then I can add accents on top of it. Uh, but for like someone new, it's a bit harder because they have like super like general ideas that they're not sure like is does a thing to do this exist in the game. So they go into like like the game troubleshooting channel, like how do you move the play field over? And it's like,
How to
oh,
make
there's
arrow
this
go
mod. Yeah,
left.
there's this mod. Yeah, but
Okay.
but it's just definitely like a lot of experience making mod files, looking at other people's mod files, reading documentation. There's a couple good resources on for modding to help get started.
Are those the UK SRT Discord?
Those are pinned. Most of them are pinned in game troubleshooting. Taro has a really cool like series that he did on Twitch where he just streamed himself making a mod file, and
Oh,
you can just watch the whole thing and see like what his workflow is, what his thought process is.
when like if someone says something that you have is unreadable, what kind of like I guess language do you do to discuss if it actually is unreadable or not?
Usually, a big part of it is because the speed mod's too high. Because I can't react to these arrows. The reaction time's too low. The arrows are just like doing their own thing. It's impossible to tell like what order you're supposed to hit them. Like if they're like in what like path they're taking, it's hard to like tell that ahead of time. Or just like straight up, you're making the arrows do way too much. You need to tone this down.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um,
Yeah.
so then I think you mentioned to me, or I've seen you mention, like the kind of like mod check charts. So like the equivalent of StamFA, but like mod tech
Yeah.
charts. What's your inspiration for making those? Why,
So that's
basically?
like a super recent development lately, but and most of it started with like Zaya, Cirque du Enzo stuff with their like mod stam, and more recently we've seen like the tech community start using like attacks, but then you have people like Taro going back to like Democracy 2020, just straight up making mod files with like tech in them and submitting them as part of the competition. So yeah, I would say my inspiration was just like seeing seeing if like trying to like win in democracy, just make mods and like wow this is so cool. Oh, I'm gonna vote for this, and then it kind of backfired. But I mean, I got a lot of experience out of it. No one does things perfectly, and I'm just it's also like a blend of like the two kinds of like step charting I like the most is mods and tech, and that's like a it's like another cool way to get like tech people into mods as well.
Okay. Um, would you say that you've been successful in bringing tech people to the mod side of things?
It hasn't happened too much. I feel like a lot of the tech community is like fine where they are, and that's fine. I am not like trying to pressure people into like going to mods because it's pretty fucking daunting. But like it's having like more exposure to like the other side of like ITG that they haven't heard of much is pretty cool. And I would definitely say people like Taro entering in democracy, their mod files. I definitely feel like that's done a good job in getting others to at least try out mods, like Demo especially, trying out the like full ass mod files in the community.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Because I think actually that would be really good exposure for ITG in general if mods were more popular. Because I think at least for a casual viewer, they are the objectively the most entertaining thing to watch.
Yeah, I think mods is like technically the most popular side of IDG from like an outsider's perspective. Uh, there's there is a file from a tournament at RIP that has like a million views. It's more like I guess approachable from an outsider's perspective because it's not just like your average rhythm game. It's you've got like stories, you got lore, you got characters, you got all these sick visuals, and like the first impression is usually how the fuck do you read this? But also at the same time,
That's
something a mod file that's approachable to viewers got like memes and shit in it, and
yeah,
like funny music.
that makes sense. How the fuck do you read this? Is my 10th impression of mods.
That's a lot of people's first impressions, honestly. It was mine.
Yep. Uh, let's check out some charts.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Okay, so this first chart that we're going to look at is called Frustrate by Black. I can't read that font.
Black Lolita.
Black Lolita. Okay, so why did you make this chart? What was your inspiration? And where is
Okay.
it from?
Backstory behind this chart was this was back in 2020, round I think 9 of Democracy, and the theme for that round was you can step any song from these 4 artists, which were determined by the winners of the previous round, which I think I got like third in round 8. I forgot, but yeah. So it's just I picked Black Lolita as my artist because I already knew what I was gonna step. Was Frustrate because Condor Talon, who's also in the mods community, stepped the song, and I saw it. I'm like, this is good, but I feel like this song could be more technical.
Ah,
So I wanted to step it for the next round in Democracy, but see. Demo then said, okay, you can step any song from these 4 artists, but your chart needs to be a 10 or lower because this is easy mode round, and you can submit 11s, but if like I think more than 3 people submit 11s, and if any of those people win, they don't get money. I think that was the round rules. So it's kind of like a prisoner's dilemma. Like, do you want to like risk it and submit something harder at the risk of you not winning money?
that's funny.
Which it worked out for me. I was the only one who submitted an 11.
Wow, you're the greedy one.
I'm like, okay. Yeah. So, yes. I think that covers it.
Okay.
Covers it. This got first place. Yeah, barely beating out Alex's chart in second.
Nice.
Which would, yeah,
That's pretty
which is
ITG Alex.
yeah, ITG Alex.
That's pretty good, man. That's awesome. Okay, let us
So
just
actually, a funny story was I think he voted for this chart, and that actually was like enough of a tipping point for me to get first in that round.
he shot himself in the foot.
Like I think it happened in the most recent Democracy round too, between Talkion and Zaya. I think. Yeah. So, I guess the main inspiration, like tech-wise, for this file was for Alligator's Midnight Hour in Technical Showcase 4, and mostly that was just like the foot switch and the crossover thing, which I guess reuse. I wouldn't. It's a super common thing now to write like foot switches into crossovers and tech charts nowadays, but I guess what makes this more unique is, I guess the specific patterning of it is like it's. I deliberately wrote it as boxes. Okay, so this double step part, if you could like stop. I want. I guess.
Let me know when you want it to stop as well.
Yeah. So, I guess for this specific part, I was thinking more of like, I was thinking of like ITG Alex's Upshift. You know, like the break where it's like na 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 na. I really fucking like that double step pattern. Okay, so I used it in a lot of charts around this time when I was like writing Frustrate, but yeah, it's like going. It's just mostly going to the
down.
to the what is it vocal chop samples, but it also brings up another point is that I write a lot of tech because it feels good. It's not like more recently I've like tried focusing more on like musical relevancy, but around this point it's just like, oh, this vaguely sounds like a foot switch. This vaguely sounds like double steps or whatever. I will put this tech here because it is fun and cool. So I'm still not sure which approach is better. They both have their like pros and cons, but
yeah. I like this pattern in Upshift too, because it's the only part of Upshift that isn't like really intense. It's just a nice little break. I get to regain my thoughts.
Ironically, this is like the one part that's not like super weird and out there.
Mm-hmm.
Can't you tell I like long foot switches? Okay, so that's the main gimmick is the
Right
foot
here.
switch into like crossover. Yeah, right there.
This is the bread and butter of this chart.
Yeah, that's like the identity of the chart. So I intended to write it as like, what is it? You can see like two boxes. Like the first box is like the up left, and then it goes into up right.
Yep.
This is like way more apparent like in the second half of the chart when I build on the gimmick. But yeah, technically, you can just. I'm pretty sure you can double step this pretty easily, even with that like toothy mine marking that foot switch. But it's not impossible to just like cheese the pattern. I'm pretty sure Steve Reed posted a score. He's like, I didn't do a single crossover in this chart.
Yeah, I feel like
But yeah,
once if you figure out like the I've noticed this in like in a lot of like the double or the a lot of the tech charts that have like a shit ton of like crossovery patterny double step things here or
yeah,
foot switch things here. If you
yeah,
like kind of figure out one section that you like bullshit, and then you'll be like
yeah,
on sync for the rest of the section.
yeah. And yeah. And those like BPM gimmicks are just like, oh, I think this is cool. I like the bounce gimmicks. I'm just gonna put this there. One thing I wanted to add. Okay, so one thing I wanted to add. Two things technically here, but one was that the first draft of this chart was like super inconsistent. With like, if you scroll back up a little bit and play, I guess, up a bit more. Like the parts in between the yeah, like here's good, I
Okay.
guess. The parts like in between the fucking foot switchy, the foot switch crossover box bullshit.
Yep.
Were like super inconsistently written between sections. Like I'd write it like if you scroll down a bit, like the triple foot switch. I think in the first draft I like wrote that as like two note foot switches instead of like the 2 note foot switch into 3 note foot switch. I like did things a lot more inconsistently. I'm like one thing I'm really glad I did about this chart was let this sit for like 3 or 4 days and then come back to it and like, oh, this is not what I how I wrote it before. Uh,
Okay.
so writing a chart and coming back to it is like, I guess it doesn't help all the time, but it really helps for catching like stupid mistakes like that. The other part I wanted to talk about is coming up here. The next section is this like 24th section.
Okay.
Technically, those are 30 seconds. I did not know that until someone pointed it out, and
Oh,
I'm like,
let's
oh,
let's
oh yeah, yeah, those are technically 30 seconds. So I'm like, oh, it feels better as 24, so whatever. I'm keeping it. Yeah, and this.
yeah, yeah.
Good. Good. I like double stuff. Okay. So up there, I guess, go back to like that first jump. That unconnected jump, I I
This
mean
one.
go up more, I guess. Go up. And yeah, there. So that jump right there, technically that's like weird. Uh from like my standards today, I don't like writing a lot of unconnected jumps, but if I remember correctly, I had to do that because the way like I wanted to mirror the sections was like super fucking wonky, and I
Hmm.
just couldn't figure out a nice looking way to do it, so I just did that, which makes this like ultra weird because that's the only unconnected jump in the entire chart, if I remember correctly.
When you say unconnected jump, what do you mean?
So okay, do you see how like your like right, but right before the jump, your right foot and your left foot are on right and down, but the jump is on up and left. So like none of your feet are like under where like the jump is
Oh,
about to
yeah,
happen.
you
Yeah,
don't
that's
use
what I mean.
either of them to hit
Yeah,
the jump.
so you have to like move your entire body or like
Gotcha.
one of your feet. Yeah,
Okay.
I guess it's just a odd charting mistake.
Yeah, because that was a connected jump. That's a connected jump. Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
and then this is the reprise. This is the part that I think made like people watching the Democracy site read stream like, what the fuck is this chart? Uh, so it's like way more obvious that these are like boxes because now it's crossover into a no foot switch into a crossover, but then it goes into a lateral, which is like wild as fuck. Actually, I think you could classify that as a backward staircase. I don't even know, but I I wanted to also bring up like the aesthetics of a pattern is like pretty important in like how like a chart feels in its like identity. Is I think this chart's unique is because you haven't really seen anything like you've seen foot switches in the crossovers and like a lot like almost every modern tech chart. This specific like patterning of like foot switch into crossover is what like makes us stand out, I would say.
It is definitely not very common. When I first did like a
Yeah.
look over of this chart, I'm like, what the fuck? That's not a double step. Like, is that like a first double step? I'm like, it took me a second. I did like the thing in the head where you're like, okay, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Yeah, but I think technically this iteration is like a lot easier to double step than like what it was before. Uh, yeah. I also like this is going back to like what I'm talking about with like scaling and like difficulty progression in files.
Yep.
Is at the beginning it's just a normal like crossover and you ease out of it like not a lot of movement, but like here it's like the music changes very slightly, but I like use that like opportunity to like ramp up the gimmick. And now because at first it's like just a normal crossover, but now you're like doing the full lateral across the pad. And
Yeah. Yeah, and you're also mixing in some of these, what you call it. There's like more stuff in the middle between like the bread and butter of the chart.
Yeah, just normal like foot switchy stuff. There's some subtle changes like that, like foot switch up there, that like foot switch into triple foot switch. That got subtly changed before it was like down foot switch. Both of those were down foot switches, but now this is like an up into down foot switch. So you do a little bit extra movement because your left foot has to handle from up into down. And,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
It's no fucking surprise it's got rated like movement 10 in ECFA 2021. No long foot switch. Oh, and then here it's like before there's not like a foot switch, but I think this part has like a specific like foot switch sound in between those like two 16th notes, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of perfect to just throw an extra tech thing. I think it worked out well because it's pretty fun to play.
Okay.
Yeah. There's not really much else to talk about.
Okay.
Most of this from here on out is like just mirroring the original chart.
Mm-hmm. And then this is the outro.
Oh, sure.
I can never time this like this pattern. Dun, 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 where it's like all on the same note. I just always drop excellence. It's too hard.
And then it's just long foot switch, funny, and another BP, one of those like BPM gimmicks, where just. I guess that last BPM gimmick has like actual impact because one is like way faster than the others. Where like the chart speeds up but then like decelerates, and that one's just like it has the hold on it, so it's like, oh no, the hold's long, now it's short. Whatever, I don't know. It's just speaking words. Yeah, that was Frustrate. People really like that chart for some reason, and I can see why people like that chart.
I'll definitely play it when I have the chance.
Yeah.
No, we
You gotta do all the crossovers though.
Oh yeah, no, you gotta do the tech. If you bullshit the tech, it's like eating vegetables, right? You eat the vegetables, it's good for you. Yeah, I want to eat pizza all day, but I want to eat some vegetables.
It hurts, but it's fun. Trust me.
Okay.
It's another funny story I want to tell about this chart is the background, because God, this fucking background is a masterpiece. So I did not make the graphics for this. Talkion did when we were putting together the overall democracy pack, and he's like, "Can I make graphics for Frustrate?" Oh, sure, go ahead. What do you want me to do? I'm like, I don't really have any ideas, but actually, wait, I do have an idea. You know Juggler's Madness by ITG Alex, right? And then he made this the fucking like stock image background.
I like the stock image background. It's very good. I don't know the other thing that you're talking about with Alex. Okay, cool. We're gonna move on to the next one. This song is Metallic Punisher.
It is quote unquote innocent noise song, which is a alias of Siramar, who does a lot of Shran's music. This song is technically an Archaea original, and Archaea has this policy that's like, oh, you probably shouldn't step our like original songs that we like specifically commissioned for our mobile rhythm game. But this one's kind of a gray area because the song is not in an Archaea album. It's in a completely separate album. It's an extend version So I'm like, I guess I don't care. But like even then, the Archaea, the dude who like heads Archaea, his name is Guy. He said, oh, he put out the policy, and he's like, he told UKSRT, because UKSRT has a huge following of Archaea players, and he's like, nothing really changes. It's just to stop people from just literally uploading the song onto like Osu or something for people to download for free. Because like you're already breaking copyright law by distributing the audio with the step chart. So yeah, it's a bit of a gray area. I still like try not to like actively step Archaea stuff, but this is fun. Funny story about this. So this was a Stamina Showcase 3 submission. This got like 8th or something, but that's not part of the funny story. The part of the funny story is when Rems was judging, Okami stepped Purgatorium, which is another Archaea original. It was another extend version of it, and Rems was like, "Oh, cool! Oh, it's an Archaea song. Must be an Okami shirt." And then he goes over to Metallic Punisher. He has like the fucking jacket art from Archaea, right? And he doesn't say anything about it being from Archaea. So I'm like, dude, come on! You could have just guessed this was Okami.
That's funny.
I don't know. That's funny. Okay.
That's funny. Okay, you ready to go into it?
Yeah. So, like, you can keep playing through this part while I talk over it, but like...
Yeah, that's usually for stamina stuff, that's what we do.
Yeah, this intro is not, like, particularly interesting, because it's just, like, very sparse. It's just the bass going on mostly, and, like, the sounds. I don't know if that picked up on mic, but... yeah, I tried stepping into that as best I can.
Okay.
Okay. But overall for this chart, it's mostly like emphasizing long anchors, like that just came up. Mostly emphasizing long anchors going to like the drum roll in the like small breaks and like box usage. I probably could have done a bit better on this, looking back on this now. Yeah, but that's like the main motif with like the drum roll and the long anchor into box. And like repeat patterns is mostly what I was trying to go for. Yeah, definitely could have improved upon this, looking back at it, but I think it's good for what it is.
Okay. I mean, it's a 14, so you get anchors aren't gonna make everyone really angry.
Yeah. Mostly just focusing on at this like BPM you can mostly focus on like interesting patterning over over like trying to make it comfy.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to like consider comfiness, because like you don't want like fucking straight helicopters at a low BPM where people are just gonna be doing super steppy form.
Yeah.
And then this is like the repeats where it's like you're candling on the same foot in the same direction. Like, I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but an up candle, like when your foot moves up the pad, it feels different than your foot moving down the pad, and that's what I'm like trying to pay attention to nowadays is what direction your foot's candling in.
Okay, so in that one, it's always going up the pad or down the pad?
Yeah, it's always going in like the same direction, and then it like breaks up and like changes which foot's doing the candling.
Gotcha.
Just so it like stays balanced. And like here as well, it's doing like the down up downs into and like left right, left up lefts into like candles. This section is kind of copy paste mirror a lot because it repeats like 4 times.
That's,
I also tried using a bit of like small sections of mono. You can see like the staircase into like corner mini anchor. I'll point that out. Like here is the like staircase into like left down left, that kind of thing.
Okay.
To like go to the main melody. Because generally when I chart the stamina, it's mostly like thinking about how am I going to accent the main melody, what's going on, until something different happens, like the little drum roll breaks in the song.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely looks like you got like kind of a general, I guess, like bass patterning that you're going on, and as the song gets more hype, you're moving a little things in there, like the anchors or stuff like that.
Coming up on the break. Break's just mostly charting to like this super like choppy sound, and then just putting filler patterning whenever it happens, and doing the candles on the little piano notes. would you even classify that as a piano? I don't even know. I never took any music theory.
I wouldn't know either.
Yeah, that's the end, I guess. Again, this got like 8th in qualifiers.
Very good.
I somehow got both files into qualifiers. I don't.
Hell yeah.
That like actually that super surprised me when I saw it. But
No, that's awesome.
yeah, I'm hoping those the finals stuff comes out soon. I'm interested to see how I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one is Upshift Yunosuke remix, a mods chart of yours. What is the background of this mods chart?
I played Chief Skittles' tech chart to this as like ITG 12. I'm like, oh, I like this chart. I like this song. I did not know Yunosuke remix Upshift. So then I think it was not ATG fan. No, it was either not ATG fan or Mirren who announced Mod Rush 2. And that's like a sort of game jam kind of event where everyone makes a file in a specific time period, and for this it was 2 days. You had a weekend to make it, and an extra day to like get any polish done, any visuals, graphic, banners, sync, whatever. And for that, I am like, oh, I know what song to do, because this is a song I've been listening to on repeat for like the past fucking week. So that's how this was born. I still don't know how I made this in 2 days. I probably can't ever bring myself to make anything in 2 days ever again.
Yeah, the crunch kind of sucks. That's why it's only like a weekend type thing.
Yeah, it's the original concept of Mods Rush was supposed to be like, oh, you can make something like super simple in 2 days and still have it be fun. But then people started like making cool stuff and then seeing other people make the cool stuff, and it's like, oh, I want to make something like that. And the standard just kept getting higher and higher, and it kind of reached a tipping point where people just got burnt out and couldn't make it. So now the time limit for mods, they're called mods jams now because the time limit got increased, but it's usually now a week, which I think is a lot more comfortable for mods files. And like, usually you can get stuff done in the week much easier than 2 days. Like, no shit.
Yeah, how long does it take to make a mod file?
Oh, it's so fucking variable. I've made the file I made for Mod Rush 1, I made in like 12 hours. Like, just wake up, sit down, start modding, get like dinner or something, sit back down, finish the file. I legitimately don't know how I ever did that. Fucking hyperfixation is stupid. But some files like legitimately take years, like because you just sit on something for like so long. You sit on like work in progresses, you like ideas. You finish something but you can't release it, so you go back and like work on it some more, get and I don't know. Shit takes a really long time, but I think the average amount of hours it takes to make a mod file is probably somewhere like 30 to 50. Some of the more like graphically intensive, ambitious files take like 100 hours. Like the Phoenix by Op5VR. That's a pretty iconic file.
Jesus.
Yeah, but it's a pretty big time investment. The biggest hurdle for mods is usually just getting the ball rolling. That, at least for me, it's just getting the ball rolling, getting the general like shape, I guess, the idea of the effect I want down on paper, and then I can just work from there. And that's the most daunting part of it, especially when you're like under pressure, like in a mods jam or mods rush, and when you're like under pressure from your own standards as well. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Let's go into it. Okay.
Yeah. So I think there's some people in UKSRT who say like this is one of their favorite files of all time, and like I'm fucking floored, but also I'm not sure how else to respond. The visuals of this were mostly inspired by the original Upshift VGA. Like the colors, especially this like intro, like the crosses on the ground was like very directly inspired. But overall, this file was mostly like focusing on like motion design. and trying trying my hand at like graphics, I guess. The graphics in here are a lot more simple than like the stuff I've done recently, but yeah. But it does. I think it does play to its advantage. It does show like you don't need to like make a super fucking detailed file. Just make something cool. It looks cool. It's good enough. It's a hard skill set. That's like you can say this is good enough and just leave it at that instead of like pursuing perfection.
Yeah. That's all hard. Yeah, you got to figure out like what's the amount of work you want to do.
This part right here, where it's like switching between like you have to read left and right.
Yep.
That was very inspired by a Sorae file called Ruggy that they're making for their like story pack thing. And we're on to the next effect already. I don't have enough time. It's okay. So generally, how you're supposed to read this is, if you have a high FPS monitor, it's like way easier to read than if you're reading it at like low frames per second. But as it scrolls, you kind of like before like start scrolling super fast, you kind of look at the bottom and like read ahead. I think generally how people read it. Some people like squint their eyes. I don't know. This part right here where like the arrows are like super fucking bouncy. I'm also inspired by a Sorae file. You can tell that I look up to their shit a lot. But yeah, if you want to replay that, I can talk more about that. But yeah, the outro section was very inspired by their Yggdrasil file that they made for their sight reading tournament a while ago. That song's awesome. That file is awesome. I really like it. So I'm like, yeah, I think that effect fits here. I'll just kind of rip it off, I guess. Try to add something on my own. Yeah, I can talk more about like what motion design is, because I think you brought this up earlier.
Yes.
In like Naughty GG, I guess motion design is like just a general thing where it like, how do I make the arrows move? How do I make the playfield move in like a way that's super aesthetically pleasing and like looks kind of believable, instead of just these arrows are just moving for the sake of moving. Aesthetically pleasing is like the more, I guess, general way. It's a general way to describe it. It's kind of fucking hard to say, but
not to cut you off, maybe like in as an example it would work like in this intro, like the motions to the noises in the song.
Oh, okay. So
is that motion?
I would say it's like the whole file is like a product of like thinking about motion design.
Okay.
So I guess if you want a more specific example, would be the intro where it's like, not the intro, the part after the intro, like the jump, that part.
Okay.
So thinking more about like the song, one part of it is the song's like super quiet at the start of that effect, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets like it gets louder as it goes on. So I like represent that with like the playfield starting small and then slowly zooming in. Another part of that is the jump sample like cutting through the music. So that's that's a super harsh sound. I use a specific ease there called out elastic, and it makes whatever you're easing, like a motion, a mod, a playfield moving, whatever, it makes that motion like jump like a rubber band kind of. So that's what I'm using to like make the arrow. That's the ease I'm using to make on like the mod that makes the arrows like jump out, I guess. That's like a prime example. Is you think about what like the sound of the sound in the song feels like, and then you like choose the correct ease. You make you like kind of work out like how long you want this mod to like ease for, and you pick out like the right ease that fits well, because there's like some sharp eases like out expo that like goes from like 0 to 1 over the time span like pretty fast, but then there's some that's like more linear, like it moves at a more constant pace, and sometimes you might want that for like a slower movement or like a movement that like goes over a longer period of time.
Okay. So those are the ones you're using here are the quick one where it's kind of like like a jump.
The quick one, yeah, where it like where like at the end of it kind of like bounces back. There's like some sort of elasticity to it, which is why it's called out elastic.
Gotcha.
There's an entire webpage that like shows all the like eases that people use for this kind of stuff.
Oh, for mods or just in general?
Yeah, just in general. But it is a really good resource for mods as well.
Oh yeah, you'll have to link me to that. That sounds awesome.
Oh yeah.
Are there any other sections that you want to talk about in particular?
This section right here, the one that's currently playing, very inspired by Windu's Black Sphere Foul, and not just that, but that's just like a general like effect. I think you asked about this earlier in the mods documentary thread in UKSRT. That's like, oh, what are like some of the more common mods that people see? Like, are there mods that people have like names for? And like that effect where like the arrows are kind of like doing like that circle motion is like it's called Black Sphere because the file it's from is Black Sphere from like as in the Sound Voltec song.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I kind of rehashed that there, put some like accents over the like dubstep song, like classic Yunosuke sounds.
Okay.
Yes. Very cool.
Yeah.
That transition people seem to have trouble with sometimes, but I was aware that it was a difficulty spike, but it's like I feel like it's fine because it's like 5 notes, and also it's kind of like finishing off this section before it goes into something easier. It's not too bad. You can like read ahead most of the time.
Yeah, I was about to say that's the only part of that I could read.
Yeah, if you're good at reading like stuff when it's not like lined up by column, if you're good at reading like individual arrow directions, then it shouldn't be too bad. I feel like, but I think I could have made it slightly less mean. I just was again writing this in 2 days, didn't really have time to like send this to other people to like play test. So and also wanted to keep it a general like surprise, because another point people make, I guess, another thing that people like in UKSRT is the ability to sight read a file, like not watching it beforehand, just going straight into it, not knowing what to expect, and seeing what score they get. That's a pretty big part of the culture there.
Is that are these really sight readable for y'all?
Yeah, people.
Okay.
I mean, that's like the entire concept of sight reading tournaments, like UKSRT, the like random tournaments at RIP.
Yeah, I thought that was because it was hard to sight read.
Not really, but well, I mean, there especially, it's more important that you make them fair to sight read. Not necessarily easier, but fair is a good point. Like nothing that you have to like memorize beforehand. Like if you isolated like a specific section in that like file or whatever, you're like, okay, that like you would be able to hit it if you like read it properly. I guess that's probably not the best way to describe it. Well,
good enough for me.
But yeah, no, it's stuff there is trying to like tune it to be like fair and not like bullshit one-offs, I guess. Except for some mods that are deliberately meant to be bullshit, but they're like usually 2 notes and 2 minds. If you know what I'm talking about, if whoever's watching this, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. It's a little bit of a meme in the mods community. For those who don't know, it's like called a haunted house jump, which is named after Windu's haunted house file, where it's like it looks like an up-down jump, but it slowly like transitions into a left-right jump, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of a bit of a fake out. But then where it actually like got popularity was Taro in UKSRT 8, in the final stage, where funny thing was Windu was competing in that final stage. He was one of the finalists. So so it had like the same effect where it starts as an up-down jump and then like slowly eases into like left-right, but then at the very last second it goes back into as an up-down jump, and you're supposed to hit as up-down. So it's like a bullshit fuck you.
Got him.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I think Windu actually like fell for it.
Got him. Take that, Windu.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of a meme in the community. It's the haunted house jump. I'm not a fan of people using it all the time because people kind of just throw it in there for no discernible reason, just to say, haha, fuck you. It needs to be done tastefully, I guess. Like, if it's something, like, the reason why it's not, like, universally declared as, like, stupid and unfun in when it was used in UKSRT8 was because you had, like, 10 seconds of break before and after that jump. So it was a super isolated thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of just there to be like funny in the last stage, and it kind of fit with like the theme of the last stage, literally being called "Get Fucked." Like,
is there anything else you want to say about this chart?
I think this file is hard for people who aren't good at mods already. It's rated a 12 12 out of 20 if I remember correctly, and usually 12 is kind of the threshold of like people who are good at ITG already, but not like have very little exposure to mods. I think that's like the threshold of like where they can read and still pass a file. But it feels like for this file in particular is kind of deadly towards people who don't have mods experience, even if they have rhythm game experience. And in particular, that's because of like the section where like the playfields are scrolling super fast, or like you kind of don't know how to read it.
This section.
Yeah, because it goes so fast. Like you can read it if you look close to like the bottom of the screen where the arrows are coming from, and you shouldn't have too much of an issue.
I've seen like this. I don't know if it has a name, but like where it like scrolls sideways like that. I've seen this at a couple of UK SRTs.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, I have no idea. I remember sitting there looking at him like, where do you look?
So that general like idea of there's like a shit ton of playfields and they're all scrolling in a wall, that's called a proxy wall in the mods community, because the like copies of the playfield, because you need like the copies so that they like scroll and loop properly.
Yep.
It's usually like thrown in with some other like kind of accent or mods. You know how like burgers have meat, right? It's like the meat of a burger, but then you can throw anything else in between that burger, and it's like a completely different burger. Like you can put like salad on it, you can put fucking barbecue sauce, different kinds of cheese, whatever. You get my point.
Beefy middle. Yeah. Gotcha.
That's a lot. That's a common theme with making mods is. People tend to recycle ideas, but they also add their like own flavor on top. Like what I talked about earlier with the black sphere effect that's like originally from a Windu file. A lot of people have reused that effect and thrown their own like kind of shit into it. It's kind of cool. You can point to like any effect, most effects in like most files. You can point to any one of them and like, oh hey, that's like that effect from this other file, and it's a cool thing because one, you kind of know how to read it already. If you know how to read the first file, you already have like a sense of knowledge in the second file, which is like when you go to a sight reading tournament, that's why like having a lot of exposure to different files really helps you there, because again, effects get reused a lot. And secondly, it's cool because it's kind of like a gesture of, oh, I like your file enough. I really like the idea in your file enough that I'm going to use it in my file. And it's not looked down upon at all, unless you're literally stealing the code from that person's file and literally just throwing it in your file without any like other considerations.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the colors in this chart are very inspired by the Upshift BGA. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, but this is the section where you see it, where it's like the fucking orange and blue.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
it's like orange and blue gradient. And I think I mentioned this already, but also wanted to like say that it's okay to make your visuals like super basic. Like at the end of the day, it's just shapes. A lot of people, like if you look at a lot of files that are released nowadays in like mod rush packs, mods jam packs, it's just people using basic shapes in some form or another. Mango After Dawn, someone I mentioned earlier, like, who are your favorite modders? It uses this, like, the fucking basic shape shit a lot.
Hmm.
They're a huge inspiration for, like, visuals. I guess I don't have anything else to talk about.
Thank you very much for coming on to the interview and talking about mods and answering all my stupid mod questions.
No, thank you too for having me on here. It was super fun talking about just random shit.
Hell yeah, it's so excited to learn about it. So then, where can we download your mods files, tech files, and your stamina files? How do we get into this?
This is kind of funny. Mods files, I usually have them. They're like mostly all hosted on my YouTube channel, with like download links to the pack they're in or to like the individual file download. If you're in the UKSRT server, you can also just literally download that like giant repository of like not ITG files from that Dropbox, and there's a folder that just has my individual releases in there. Fair warning, half of them are pretty crusty because I haven't really released stuff outside of packs in a long time, but.
Okay.
For stamina and tech stuff, it's kind of super fragmented because I haven't really released any packs yet. I'm working on those, coming out in like 2157, fucking 5 millenniums from now. Trust me. But I have a couple like smaller packs that I've released, and those are also on my YouTube channel, like fucking Thesaurus for Stamina, Fuckaronis. That's a kind of old 2020 pack. Not too proud of everything in there, but I think Archie said he liked it, so, and there's a couple files in there that's an ECS. Yeah. Barbecue Lynn's $5 pack of Stam Tech shit. That's a Stam Tech mini pack, mostly experimental, just like seeing can I write streams and tech at the same time, and it's fun. And two of those files got into Stamina RPG, so.
Hell yeah.
And those are on my YouTube channel. If I release any packs in the future, I'll upload those trailers and song reels to YouTube as well, and that's just kind of like the one central place I like to have my stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yep.
I will see you next time.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Peace out.
Goodbye, everybody. I never know how to end these things.
It's so fucking awkward.